one of the things I wanted to chat about ties to like why we do this. Okay, so some interesting statistics I found recently from Pew Research Center. They came out a couple of years ago, but they tried to figure out what's going on in terms of the trend of the number of people identifying as Christian. Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind for their survey, the researchers only looked at religious identity rather than religious beliefs and practices. So, like, they're asking people, what are you? Mm-hmm. Not, let's test if you're right about who you are. You know, like, you say you're a Buddhist. Do you really believe in the fourfold path and the seven noble truths? I mean, no one tests that.
Right.
And what they've been finding since the 1990s, the number of Christians has been declining. Mm-hmm. Precipitously, if I want to sound pretentious.
And you did.
Thank you. And so what they found is if you take the trends we were currently on and you follow them out in a graph, how long would it take for us to become the minority? For Christians, self-identifying Christians to become the minority?
2 years?
Well,
we're not there already.
Bad, I know, so I was going to ask.
No, we're not. It says, depending on the future of religious switching, people who identify as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular could become America's largest religious group within our lifetime. Mm-hmm. Within our lifetime.
I'm surprised we're not already there, to be honest. And a lot of people that claim to be Christians, they don't live by biblical principles at all.
No, they don't. And so what's even fascinating about that is we may already be there, right? To your point, because this is just self-identification. You know, like, oh yeah, Jesus, good guy. I'm a Christian. Oh, okay. No, you're not. You don't know what you're talking about. So the number of people who actually would qualify under the essentials of Christian belief, virgin birth, substitutionary atonement, the resurrection, the bodily resurrection, all those things, right? The Trinity, probably a minority. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen the numbers yet. But regardless, it's shifting. So why do I bring that up? Well, because I feel like something that we do here, the way we try to do it on this radio station, might be the lifeline to continue in Northeast Ohio, at least, some semblance of what it truly means to be a follower of Jesus. Because I also think here's the other problem. There's a lot of Christians who mean well, but make all of us look really bad. Mm-hmm. They're defining their faith by their againstness.
Yeah.
Is how my friend Barnabas Piper would call it. Like, if you asked, hey, you ask non-Christians, what are Christians about? Oh, they're against this, they're against that, they're against this, they're against that. Can we create an environment, on this show at least, where we talk about today's issues from a faith perspective? We're intellectually honest, we're fair, we're reasonable, we have fun, we are winsome and shrewd, or whatever. I'm trying to think of Bible words. Yeah. All those things. I think we try to do that with some measure of success. Because I don't want the gospel to be known for like all the things we don't like. I think that's a bad image. Mm-hmm. And that's a bad representation of our mission as ambassadors for Christ. And so kind of what we do this time of year is ask you to go, okay, if you listen to the show, you understand that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Mm-hmm. You're part of that. But if you like it, are you willing to invest in it?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it gets down to.
Do you believe in it enough to keep going, to help it keep going?
Yeah, because plenty of people are throwing money at people behaving badly as Christians. But can you support a ministry that's trying to go after it in an honest way that I think we're trying to do what I like the way Dr. Rydelnik described years ago as we talked about salt and light. You know, Jesus said to be salt, and he said you're supposed to make the gospel taste better.
Right.
I like that phrase. Mm-hmm. We're trying to make the gospel taste better. Would you help invest in that? That's what we do in Share. So was I being melodramatic before? I tend to do that a lot.
Yeah.
The idea that Christians are oftentimes known for what we're against and we're just kind of crabby in public.
No, you're right.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, I think if you were to ask your average non-Christian, they would have a list of don'ts for Christians, like, oh, they don't like this or that. Even some Christians, they might not actually know what they stand for, just what they don't stand for. And that's just not a great principle for life. Like, if I go up and I meet a new person, it's like, hi, I'm Daria, and I don't like to be out late, and I don't like this food, and I really don't like this. And if you could not do this when you're in my presence, that'd be great. I'm not going to make any friends. No one wants to be around me.
No,
That's a great point.
It's not about making friends, Daria. It's about the truth.
Well, Jesus had 12 friends, and probably more. He had to make friends before he could disciple them and teach them the truth.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's degenerated to this, but I've been thinking recently even about how Jesus really wasn't kidding about the greatest commandment. Like, I don't know why. I bring it up a lot, I think, because the more and more I'm walking with Jesus, the more I see how simple it really is.
Mhm.
Like somebody said, hey, what's the most important thing? I'm going to catch you. And he's like, I got it. Love God, love your neighbor. And if you really break down almost every commandment and almost every teaching of Paul and Peter and James in the New Testament or Jesus himself, it really boils down to that.
Yeah.
And yet here's what we're doing. You stop that. You stop that. I don't like that about you. And you need to stop doing that. I don't like that.
We're really worried about what other people are doing.
Especially non-Christians.
Yes.
We're really worried about what non-Christians are doing.
Yeah.
And the last time I checked,
They're not called to that.
yes, they have a whole different standard of behavior. We ought to be like excited for the opportunity to get to know them and love them and share really good news with them as opposed to telling them how dumb they are.
Yeah.
But that seems like all we're doing in the Christian narrative in America today. Now, I know there's exceptions to that. I'm being a little bit melodramatic to prove a point. But at the end of the day, again, this is what we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to be a little different because here's the other end of it. There's other people in Christian ministry who pretend like everything is syrupy sweet. Like all the women in that type of ministry are like very breathy. Hey, everyone, I'm Lauren on the radio. Love Jesus. Here's Chris Tomlin. Ew. Like be a normal, real person that doesn't pretend like everything's perfect all the time.
Yeah, because then you're just acting like all the things that Christians are going through, that our culture is going through, don't exist. And that's not how we're supposed to live either.
No. Life is hard and we can be honest about it.
Like a personal journey I'm going through is like finding God's joy despite hard circumstances. But there are a few specific people in my life. I don't know them super well, but every time I see them, like, hey, how you doing? And they just explode with how good things are. And I don't talk to them because I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had somebody look at me not too long ago, and I have to be very generic because of where I encountered this person. And they basically said that no Christian could say they had a bad year.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that.
It was like around the COVID time. Like nobody could say they had a bad year because Jesus. Like, what? How can I even talk to that person?
We're
It
still
was actually
people.
a really hard year for me personally.
Yeah, we're still people with emotions.
And Jesus is still awesome and he still saves me, but I was
Right.
like real sad that year.
Jesus created our emotions.
Yeah. And this guy's like,
Like,
no, you
God
can't
gave
have a
us
bad
emotions.
year. You're a Christian. Great year. It's a great year. You're like, wait, but my best friend died. No, it's great.
It's a great year because God exists.
We're not going to do any of that here.
No.
And so we're asking those of you who would subscribe to that, which I think is the silent majority. People like to use that phrase a lot, but I think it's the silent majority of Christians would prefer to live that way. Maybe you want to invest in the mission that we're trying to accomplish in Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania.
The gospel changes everything. Thanks for listening to Mornings with Brian during Spring Share. Call or text the word SHARE to 800-600-9624 or give online at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.